There is an inbuilt approval workflow engine within the TraceCloud tool. When you create a new requirement, you have the ability to set whether requirements belonging to that particular requirement type will go through an approval workflow or not. If you do not wish to send requirements through approval workflow cycle, please turn this feature off by setting the drop-down value of approval workflow to disable in the admin tool. However, if you wish to send requirements through an approval workflow cycle, you must enable the approval workflow feature by setting the approval workflow drop-down value to enable in the admin tool. Once you have done that, you must also decide what group of users or what role should approve requirements in your folder. Keep in mind that approve is a folder level privilege. As you can see, for the folder release, test, test cases 1, and test subfolder, these three users are set as approvers. When requirements are initially created, they are in the draft stage. For example, rel 19 is in a draft stage. Once you submit requirements for approval, they move from draft state to in approval workflow state. rel 1 is in approval workflow state. The notification tool sends notification to all approvers that requirements are waiting for the approval. If all the approvers approve the requirement, then the requirement status changes to approved. However, even if one approver rejects the requirement status changes to rejected. When you are creating a new custom attribute, you have the ability to decide if any change to that custom attribute should result in approval workflow status change. Let us go to the admin tool to see where we can make these changes. Change to this attribute resets approval workflow status to draft, yes or no. For example, if you decide that a change in this attribute of business requirement should result in approval workflow status change by setting this value to yes, then any change in this attribute will invalidate the approved status of business requirements, and the requirements will move back to draft state from approved, rejected, or in approval workflow state.